Joins us now. Layla, very dramatic scenes going on in Prime Minister's Questions time tonight. Sajid Javid's live resignation, seeing Boris Johnson get up and leave. Now, it seems to me that the 1922 committee might be hustling to change their own rules. If they cannot, would you back a vote of no confidence in the House itself?
Goodness. Well, I think, first of all, and I think Sajid Javid's resignation speech, which you played just earlier, showed us the strength of feeling that is now amounting on the backbenches of the Conservative Party. I absolutely do not have confidence in this Prime Minister. In fact, the Liberal Democrats already put down a motion saying that earlier, so we've already backed it. But the fact is that it's now clear that Boris Johnson is not going to do the right thing for this country. He's not going to remove himself. And this matters because government isn't working. We should be focused on the big issues facing people today, the cost of living crisis in particular. And yet here we are talking about him and talking about the latest sex scandal. It's time for him to go. It's time for the 1922 committee to have those change of rules. I absolutely hope they do that. But critically, it's time for those Conservative backbenchers who still support him to either resign, and when they do, vote against him in that vote of no confidence. That's how we're going to get rid of Boris Johnson as quickly as possible.
Now, Layla, this is clearly a Conservative Party meltdown above all. The Prime Minister, many of his own backbenchers and indeed former ministers would say that he has brought this upon himself. But do you have any sympathy with those constituents in your Oxford and Abingdon constituency and indeed across the country who are sick and tired of the political and media class, in their view, playing parlour games? A health secretary resigning when NHS waiting lists are at a record high, a chancellor resigning when the cost of living crisis is the worst it's been in 40 years. Don't we look as a political and media class, Layla, as if we are just playing politics from our positions of financial security while much of the rest of the country is suffering?
Actually, I completely agree with that perspective insofar as the thing we should all be focused on all the time are the NHS, how expensive it is to fill up the cars at the moment, the fact that town centres are going backwards, not forwards under this government. These are all the things that people deeply care about. But I think people do also care about integrity in politics. They care about decency. They care about sexual assaults and covering up sexual predators, and that those people shouldn't be in positions of power. And what it all speaks to is a lack of judgment, not just of Boris Johnson, who put Chris Pincher in that position in the first place, let alone Partygate, but all the people around him who have continued to support those kinds of decisions. So all of those things that you've mentioned that people care about deeply are the main thing and should always be the main thing. But the question I would ask them is, do you trust Boris Johnson to put you first or to put himself first? And I think we've now reached the conclusion, and it's not just me, it's countless in his own cabinet and his backbenchers who've come to the conclusion that he doesn't. He's in it for himself, and it's time for him to go.
You say that, but perhaps Boris Johnson's thinking right now is it's not time to actually jump off the ship, but steer it into a better direction. He's appointed a new Chancellor. He's appointed a new Health Secretary. Should we not give them time to actually get on with the job that they've been appointed to do?
First of all, I have actually a lot of respect for Nadhim Zahawi. I think he's got a really inspirational backstory as well, and no one would question that I think he was a very effective vaccines minister. But nevertheless, he is a chancellor. The chancellor position is the number 2 position. The main position is the prime minister. And this country, this great nation, is now not represented by someone who deserves that title. So it's time for Boris Johnson to go. Without him going, I'm afraid to say they are operating in a culture, in a system that itself is failing. He is one of the problems. Them supporting him, I think, is also a problem. And fundamentally, what people need is a competent government that is focused on them. I think we're all just done with the Boris Johnson drama. We just want a government that is going to deliver for people. I'm sick of talking about Boris Johnson. I want to talk about the big issues this country is having and how we're going to solve them.
Layla Moran, Liberal Democrat Foreign Affairs spokesman, we thank you for joining us here.